Is this a safe space? Is it okay for me to just let y'all know that some guys are simply not worth it? I'm totally aware that a lot of men have their flaws. All of us, myself included, we all have flaws. You have flaws. But there's a difference between a man who is imperfect and a man who's simply not worth it. There's a such thing as a man who, flaws and all, would be better off going somewhere else. Like, if you've gotten yourself to a point where you added so much value to your life that the momentum you have in life towards your full potential, towards your purpose, etc., will only be brought back by the man that you're with, you don't need to be with that man. If he's only going to slow you down or take you the other way, I don't care how much you empathize with this man's background, with this man's childhood trauma. It's been 40 years since that man's childhood trauma. What has he done to deal with that, or at least manage it or become aware of it, so that whenever he came across you, he could continue to elevate you? That's the whole purpose of a relationship, is to elevate the both people, the both of you, towards your full potential, towards your purpose. That's the whole point of conjoining with somebody else. Never in life was it designed for us to get with somebody else and go backwards, to go downhill. The whole through thick and thin is through thick and thin towards a goal. Overcoming obstacles towards a goal. There ain't no overcoming an obstacle going backwards to square one. Going downhill in life. Getting further away from God. Getting further away from the things that you envisioned years ago and you've been working towards diligently. If all you're doing is getting off track and staying off track from everything you had going on before that man, it's time to get rid of him. I ain't even gonna say just go get a new man, because it ain't all about being with somebody else. The whole reason I'm saying this, I was watching I think it's a show called like The Ultimatum or something like that. And there's a woman on there, and I'm not about to go through the whole premise of the show, but there's a woman, and she's on there with this guy, and she's just trying her best to be patient with this man, and this, that, and the other. And as she's describing their relationship and some of the hardships that they've had, I realized something. I'm like, he is 100% all her hard times. This ain't even like, okay, life happens, health issues happen, two people who are doing their absolute best are just going to encounter some things and resistance towards their goal, but you know what, they getting through it. It's like, he's 100% her thick and thin, her worst. He ain't never for better, but her worst. He's 100% the source. And at some point, you got to be real with yourself and him. This is not mutually beneficial, and dare I say, it's not beneficial to even one side if you're just sitting there going downhill while keeping him company. If that's the kind of misery he got, your company shouldn't be added to that. So I'm gonna give you some signs, because I understand one of the hardest things in the world is to determine whether or not you should leave or whether you should stay with a person. Because you really love this person, but you can't stay just out of attachment. It's got to be connection or disconnection at that point. But understand something. Your energy is currency. And there are some men who will come into your life, they ain't got nothing to offer you but overdraft fees. I feel like some of y'all are going to miss that. Your energy is currency. You invest that, you pay that to go forward in life, to achieve, to love. Like, you need energy to do that. There's some men who are simply leeches. And the only thing they got, not to add to what you got going on, but to tax you even more after not having anything to add on to you. Does that make sense to anybody? Put it like this. If you're in a situation, and again, I am aware as a man, I'm flawed. Only one man I believe has ever been sinless, and that's Jesus Christ. So everybody got flaws, but this is about looking at the net outcome of a man's impact on your life. You a professional, you whatever you are, you work, you managing your career, your household. On top of that, you got to manage his basic life functions. And you don't get no reciprocity. It's not like you're doing your part to come over here and sacrifice for him, and then he's coming over to you and making sure that your life is a little bit easier. It's one way. At some point, I don't care how much you love this man, how much you're attached to this man, how many years you spent doing this, and you don't want to walk away from all that you've invested, et cetera, et cetera. I don't care that y'all got kids, and I love children, and I love family. But I'm saying that's not enough. At some point, the end result is going to be complete exhaustion, emotional depletion. That's going to be the end result. I'm not saying right, wrong, or otherwise. I'm telling you what's going to happen if you remain in that situation. Resentment, burnout. And that's just the emotional aspect. That's just the quality of life aspect. From there, your professional momentum is going to be thwarted. It's going to completely vanish. Whatever you was trying to do, this is for those of y'all who are professionals and you got businesses or you trying to, promoting your job or whatever. All of that momentum is going to go away because energy is your currency. And all this man got to offer you is overdraft fees. Why? Because his sex is good. Y'all trauma bonded. He filling in a void. He talk good. He guilt tripping you. And outside of your professional momentum, just your personal joy. There's a reason why whenever a woman lets go of a man who is this type of energy leech, she glows up. Her joy is now restoring. Just joy alone. Like, it don't matter how much success you got, how many beautiful children and healthy children you got, how many square feet you got in your home, how many cars you got in the garage. If you ain't got no joy, what's it all for? Another sign, that man is simply not worth it. And I'm not saying he's unworthy for any woman. I'm not saying that, but for you, is when you, if you're honest with yourself, you can acknowledge his potential is just a mirage. It never comes into full fruition. If the potential is just something continuously hoped for, and I'm talking about years in, even months in, honestly, depending on if it's a short-term goal, a long-term goal, or a potential that you're saying that he could fulfill. Potential, when it's a mirage, can never be a stable foundation. Never. If he's chronically unemployed, or he keeps having the exact same personal issues of, just continuing to pop up, consequences from his bad decisions continuing to pop up, new ones or the same ones, and there's no progress. You cannot continue on that spiral downhill because you want to support his journey. The journey is a merry-go-round. The journey is a hamster wheel. And at some point, you're going to become an enabler because you're sacrificing your prime years waiting for a transformation that'll never organically occur. This is why it's so important to look at a man's track record. I don't know anybody who just had a smooth ride towards the top, towards their goal. I'm not saying that. If you in month 1, month 3, month 6, okay, you may not have seen some things coming to full fruition. Depending on how big his goals are, how big his vision is, okay, there may be even more time that you need to give grace for it, etc. Some of y'all are in 5-10-year relationships and you got plenty of track record with you to assess how are things going with this man and all of the potential that he had in the beginning. Is there any part of it that validates me continuing to stick this out? Or is it just my wishful thinking and my optimism I'm projecting onto him? Ultimately, you risk losing your own developmental window waiting for a potential that never comes into fruition for that man. I can't read your name because it's in Chinese or something like that, but you said 8+ years on and off, you're tired. That's what it's stagnant. It's a merry-go-round. It's a hamster wheel. You're never making actual progress. You're just exhausted and burning yourself out. Third sign that man is simply not worth it is if the emotional labor seems like your part-time job and he never clocks in. The emotional labor of being his unpaid therapist, of being his career coach, his motivational speaker, life manager. And I don't think we're honest enough about how a lot of guys honestly cannot function in their adult lives without the woman doing every little thing. But you function in all of these different roles. Meanwhile, for him, he never takes personal accountability to just be an adult. He never clocks into the emotional labor. At some point, there's going to be an erosion of your own self-respect. You're going to have psychological fatigue. And the relationship is going to become one-sided. An emotional investment. It's going to weigh heavier on you. So now, instead of the relationship being like a vehicle, a rocket launcher towards what God has planned for your life, it becomes this anchor to your lower self, this weight that you're carrying around. And some self-imposed guilt, some self-imposed responsibility, or sympathy, pity, to not leave him behind is the price you paying. Or rather, should I say, what you trading your full potential for. At some point, you got to be real with yourself and admit he's not worth it. You can love him from a distance. You ain't got to hate him. But there's got to be prerequisites for the roles that you allow anybody to play in your life. Another thing I need you guys to understand is that communication is not a negotiation. It's an absolute must-have. It is non-negotiable. If the man don't want to talk, if he leverages or weaponizes not talking about a thing because it keeps him in some type of control, some type of power, keeps you knocking on the door on the outside, trying to get into what's really going on in his mind. If there's always some type of breakdown, maybe he starts yelling, so there is no potential to resolve the actual conflict. Therefore, the conflict remains and just continues to pile up and build up and add up to previous conflicts that were never resolved. And the end result is you starting to suppress your feelings. You starting to hold your tongue because you don't want to create more issues, and you know y'all don't never progress through nothing anyway, so might as well just let the emotional dust settle, and eventually you'll get better, and eventually you won't be thinking about it, so you just continue to redirect your focus. You ain't even pick and choosing your battles. Anytime communication is needed, you go ahead and wave the white flag so y'all never get to win those battles that need to be won for the war. At some point, you're going to gradually normalize toxic communication patterns, and then your intimacy is going to be destroyed, and mutual understanding is going to be non-existent. I'm really wanting to focus beyond the whole attachment, the whole I love him, and I'm not mad. Look, I love y'all. I'm a lover boy, proudly. Nothing's wrong with love. In fact, I would say you got to have love, right? But you also need to love somebody who loves himself enough to make a mutual investment in that relationship for it to be beneficial, for it to be worthwhile. Am I making sense to anybody? Please let me know. If I'm speaking facts, let me know I'm speaking facts. I'm speaking self-preservation because above all else, guard your heart. Can't put nobody else's gas mask on if you don't put yours on. I'm not saying leave, 2 months in and things ain't perfect. I'm not saying leave if this man is dedicated, he's showing up and things just ain't going right now. But if you are seeing that nothing that this man is doing could even reasonably lead to a healthy relationship, a better version of you, a better version of him, or a better situation for the both of y'all to be in. And by that time, honestly, your intuition should already be telling you. And your intuition is honestly your direct line of communication with God. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory. Like when you recognize you're having consistent gut feelings about some of the financial discrepancies, or maybe just inexplicable behaviors that he's doing, or pattern interruptions, or if you notice that you keep having these feelings, these unctions, followed by validation that something actually was up, eventually you're going to normalize self-doubt. You're going to get exploited financially, emotionally, otherwise. Or there's going to be an erosion of your personal boundaries if you keep ignoring that. If you are in a situation with a man, it is not worth it to continue on. If for you to remain in that relationship, you got to continue to deny your intuition, just to see and regret that you never should have. It's not worth it. It's also not worth it if that man is threatened by your elevations. If he's threatened by your independence, I'm not saying you be so independent you don't need his help or you talk from a place as if he has no value in your life. But if the things that you're going after that don't have anything to do with him are a problem for him, that man's not worth it. I do believe that a wife is supposed to be a man's helpmate. I also believe that no matter what, wife or not, there's a purpose that God has for your life, independent of a man. I really do. You have a purpose independent. You have influence and impact independent. You have a full potential independent. Now, what it's supposed to do is conjoin with the man that God has for you who's also doing his part. But it can never conjoin with a man who's threatened by your elevation. If there are subtle or even overt attempts to diminish whatever achievements that you have, whatever progress that you're making, it may not be something professional. Maybe it's a new language you want to learn. Maybe it's a new health and fitness goal that you've established. I don't care. It could be a skin routine you're trying to establish. Anything that just puts you up closer towards your full potential. And that man is threatened by that, talks down about it, snarky comments. Not just a one-time, one-off thing, but you notice there's consistently an issue. This man consistently feels aggravated by anything you're trying to do to just elevate you. Or, because sometimes it happens in the form of him creating some artificial dependencies that take you away from that thing that you're trying to do. He never once cared to have all of this presence from you or you just to be at home. But now that you're saying, okay, I gotta get out, I gotta go network, I gotta get out, I gotta go get clients, I gotta go to this mastermind or this mentorship, or maybe you're trying to go to church, or you're trying to do all of these things, and he just needs you to be somewhere else. All of a sudden, like he's sabotaging. At some point, there's going to be a systemic dismantling of your personal ambitions. Universally speaking, and across the board, you're going to start looking at your own ambitions as a problem. Something that doesn't fit in your life when really it just doesn't fit in this relationship with this man. Eventually, you're going to feel like you need to be isolated from the outside world that you could be connecting with and growing with, from your network, from your friend circle, from whatever else, family, because it's always going to be a problem for him. And on his end, it's a calculated reduction of your self-worth. And one more way that you know that that man is simply not worth it is if your healing, your evolution feels contingent on his transformation. Like I said, I was watching the show, and this particular sister, she's naming all these things that she went through with this guy, but ultimately her entire life goal is hinging on him transforming his mind, changing his mind, essentially. She's trying to change this man. He don't want to be married. He don't want kids. He don't want commitment. But that's where she sees the next level of her life being for her. That's what she knows she's supposed to be a mom. She knows she's supposed to function in a marriage, not just boyfriend and girlfriend forever. So she's making everything ahead of her contingent on this man's transformation. I'm all for people transforming out of bad habits and things like that. But if this is a core value of this man and you need that to transform in order for you to realize your own goals, realize your family goals, you to heal, he's not worth it. You're going to be waiting for that man, and you're waiting for him is really a form of self-sabotage at that point. He's not forcing it on you. You're going to be missing opportunities for genuine connection you may never get again. The intimacy, the growth, the connection is going to be stagnant. You're going to essentially be surrendering your peak opportunity for growth for this man who is comfortable and complacent right where he is. And I'm going to tell you something. 9 times out of 10, a man will only be doing that and playing that part, 1, because he knows you'll go for it, and 2, because it makes him comfortable. It's almost like he has less to lose doing that And he's waiting until he burns out or until he gets tired of it. And then whenever he's actually ready to step up and take on the responsibilities and the mantle of a man in a relationship, he's going to go to somebody else. He's going to go to somebody else. This is exactly what I mean when I say building a man up for somebody else. What typically happens is not so much, literally you building him up. What happens is he's actually tearing you down. And in that process of him tearing you down, he's now gotten a lot of these immature ways out of his system. Meanwhile, you're so depleted, you're not even the version of you first showed up as. And so now he goes to somebody else that's brand new and unscathed from all of his toxic mistreatment. I know y'all don't like to hear that, but I really want to be clear because I did see somebody ask that question about if a man upgrades and gets a better woman to go on to after he's already dealt with you. I need y'all to stop thinking like that. A man is not leaving you to go upgrade to another woman. He doesn't get upgraded and then go get an upgrade. He spends time upgrading, yes, because you're pouring into him, but because it's not mutual, he's downgrading you. So he may go get a woman that really ain't got nothing on you. You spend the best years of your life with this man. Just because he moved on to somebody else don't mean she's an upgrade. But he will downgrade you because you're depleted. Then go get a woman that seems like an upgrade, but compared to what he's had as an impact on you, which is really not you. But instead of trying to do damage control, it's much better to take preventative measures because you don't have to live that life. You don't have to build nobody up. You don't have to let nobody tear you down just for them to go on to somebody and act like that person is an upgrade. Only if you avoid the 7 red flags. Those men who have those red flags, that this is exactly what they're on. They're not just imperfect or working through some things or, got a troubled childhood or, got some stuff that they're trying to work through, no, like there are 7 red flags you got to be aware of. If you're going to avoid being that woman, maybe you're already in a relationship or maybe you're just dating. But I did a deep dive about those red flags, how to uncover them quickly before you get emotionally invested. I did all of that in my free training. Never prepare a man for the next woman. I put the link down here in the comments. I don't know if you guys can see it. Free training. I'll probably leave it up for a couple more hours. So go ahead and register now so that the link is in your email. That way, if I take it down, because I don't know when you're watching this, if I take it down, you won't risk losing your spot. Go ahead and reserve your spot. Moral of the story is this, though. A man is either a liability or an asset. And I'm not talking about financially. The liability comes from your ability to focus every day. How you see the world, how you believe in yourself, how clearly you hear God through your intuition. What type of friends are you attracting into your friend circle? What type of people? What type of conversations are you even having on a daily basis? Since that man came into your life, what things has he introduced you to? Has he introduced you to a need for more alcohol to cope? Has he introduced you to more stress? Has he introduced you to more ease in life or more struggle every single day to where you only getting done a fraction of the things that you normally would get done? What has he introduced you to since he's come into your life? Because whatever he's introduced you to is a step towards or away from what God has for you. And there's no man who is worth distancing yourself from God and what God has designed for your life. If you agree with that, share, because knowledge is not just power, it's liberation. But I'm your internet brother. Those are just my thoughts. And if you want more, if you want a deep dive on the topic of never being the woman that's preparing a man for some other woman, hop on over to the free training. I put the link right here in the comments. I pinned it right here. Free training, never prepare a man for the next woman. I'll see you on there. I'm doing a Q&A at the very end, so if you have questions, put them there. What's up, Joyce? And hit the share button so I can thank you down in the comments if you got something from this.